Good morning to every one of you following us from Italy or from France or from everywhere. We are here in Paris from Sorbonne Nouvelle. You cannot see the young students here with us, but we are physically present, which is wonderful given the past few years that we spent during pandemics. So I'm Chiara Prodi. I'm teaching here the Masters in Cultural Industries in a French-Italian perspective. And the occasion we have today is the digital talks, so the partnership between Sorbonne Nouvelle and IULM. And we have the chance to have two experts in the European perspectives on industrial cultures and cultural policies in Europe. So I won't be long because you will see the presentation will be really dense, and feel free to of course, ask questions, note them, and there will be enough time after both presentation to take part to the debate. So we will have with us today Paola Borrione from Fondazione Santagata and Sergio Chianca, who have so many different groups and structures with him that he will introduce himself afterwards. The idea is that we're going to present, first of all, the perspective of the cultural industries in Europe, and afterwards how we can build effective networks in order to build projects that have a European perspective. Both the presentation will have like 30 minutes time length. So I'll pass immediately the video screen to Paola Borrione, and she has a presentation, a digital presentation too. So thank you, Paola, for being with us.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me at this digital talk on cultural industry, the European perspective. I am very glad to be here with you and to discuss this topic. And when I was asked to participate in this talk, I started thinking how presenting the European perspective on creative industry. So I prepared some slides, if you can please share it, just to add some data and insight to watch while I'm speaking. So thank you. You can go to the third slide, I think. Thank you. So first of all, there's a problem of definition of what are cultural and creative industry, since every country elaborated a different model. Cultural industries are the traditional arts sector, but also the public sector, and includes both content industries or performing arts, but also creative industries. So there were many different ways to define cultural and creative industries, and different scholars from all over the world and different perspectives that try to find a suitable model to really understand what cultural and creative sector is. And we can also I think that France and Italy, that is the perspective I'm using, the comparison between France and Italy, have use almost the same model to analyze cultural and creative sector. If you go to the next slide, we can see all these different models we have and definitions. So you have Adorno and Horkheimer at the middle of the previous century, where you have creative industry from UK DCMS. Bipod also has a model that is mainly based on copyright, so it's defining as cultural those industries that have a copyright that is protecting and covering the cultural production. You have the concentric circles that are used by IKEA, but that were elaborated by David Crosby, that see cultural and creative industries as concentric circles where the core are the main important from the point of view of cultural production, and going outside the first circle, you have creative industry that are linked to the core one. You have also untagged models, so many different ways to approach this sector, to define it, to collect data, also to compare sectors. And this great variety of models, it's a richness from one side, but is also it makes it difficult to compare different countries somehow, and to find some indicators or data that we can use to compare the economic size of the industries involved in the cultural sector. So we elaborated in Italy with a white paper on creativity and culture and creative industries, a model, thanks to Paola Santagata, that has been one of the first scholars in Italy studying cultural economy. This model was elaborated for and with the Ministry of Culture, use four main sectors. There are material culture, so you have fashion, design and craft, food and wine industry, the content production, information and communication industries as TV and radio, advertising, publishing, etc. And then historic and artistic heritage, like cultural heritage, music and performing arts, architecture, contemporary art too, that are under this big umbrella of heritage, and cultural tourism too. All the activities linked to culture that are in the field of tourism. And we share this model at the national level, but also at the international one, finding different way of approaching, in particular, material culture and creative industries that are not considered cultural production in all the country. While I think in France, with quite the same approach, considering food, fashion, and design as cultural product, created and cultural product, because they are symbolic ones. From one side, they have a history in our production, and they have a big influence from the point of view of position in the country, but also from the economic point of view, as I think we will see. So given this definition, it's not easy to find data that fit the exact definition for the two countries. So if you can go next, I collect some data on Eurostat using the cultural statistics that are collected for every member states, as you can see the next slide. And we have a lot of different data on cultural production, also on cultural consumption habits, on what citizens do, but I just focused on the production side. And as you can see, Germany, France, Italy, and Spain are the main countries in cultural production for the value added of the sector, for the turnover generated by the enterprises involved in the sector, and also for the number of enterprises that are involved. And here you can see one of the main differences between France and Italy that is characterizing Italian economy, not only in the cultural sector, but also in other ones. We have a larger number of enterprises involved than in France, but a turnover that is lower. What does it mean? That we have a lot, really a lot of small or micro enterprises linked to cultural sector as a single person or a single professional that produce very low turnover for sure. And I think that that is one of our weakness as a country, since it's not easy for the Italian producers, Italian cultural producers, to have an impact at the European level, also due to this kind of big number of different enterprises that have not enough capital to invest to go on the European market, and maybe they have not enough personnel or competencies also to go to the European market. And I think that Sergio will also speak about competencies and how to go on the international level, to work at the international level. And this is one of the weakness on the factor that Italy have to work on. So if you go to the next slide, I think the number are very small, maybe in your video, but it's just to show you how what is the impact in terms of turnover, and then the next two of value added by the Italian and France level for the cultural industries. As you can see, we generate a very high turnover as country, the second and the third one just after Germany. And the other countries are very far from these three economies that have a large number of enterprises, but also a very important audience in terms of cultural audience, because they are the ones with the larger population. For sure, when we had also UK and European statistics, UK was, I think, the first one or the second, not far from Germany. If you go to slide 7, just skipping the 6th one. Thank you. As you can see, we were speaking about the number of cultural enterprises. As here you can see the number of enterprises in relation with the total. So it seems that France have a larger number because it is a larger number on the total of economy. What does it mean? That cultural sector in France is larger than the one that you can find in Italy, even though in terms of absolute number, you will have more enterprises in Italy. It means that in Italy we have a sector that is not as developed as the French one, that is in particular, I think, stronger in the audiovisual production. That is not so important in Italy. In France, you have a lot more enterprises working in that sector, subsector, and working also at the European level in the sector. If you go to the next slide, you will see that in terms of employment, we have quite the same value, 3.6 in France and 3.5 in Italy. So this sector involved a lot of people working there as artists, as creative professional, but also a technician. You have a lot of different jobs in the cultural and creative sectors. And it is interesting because you can compare the sectors thanks to these statistics to other one, and you can see that it's quite a large part of the total employment devoted to cultural sector. And as you can see, and that is interesting too, even though France and Italy are one of the biggest economy in terms of culture and creative sector, there are other countries that employ a larger number of people in the sector, like, for example, Finland, or Netherlands, or Belgium, and so on. What is the big difference? That they have a lot of different way of working. If you go inside the statistics, you will see also there are way more part-time people working in the cultural sector in these countries, and less people work in the public sector and more in the private one, linked to content or cultural product, where there's a big market. So they involve a lot of people working for the market, while in France and Italy you have a lot of people working also in the public sector, since our cultural heritage sector is a very big one. We have a lot of national museums, of archaeological sites, of art center. There are rules at the national level and not at the private one. Another way of comparing the two countries, as you can see in slide 9, is the export of cultural goods as a share of the total export. And you have in the next slide 2 years compared, the 2015 and 2020. We have cultural statistics that can be compared at the national level until 2020. So we cannot see on this data the effect of the pandemic right now. We can do for some countries, but not at the European level. So the export of cultural goods is another important signal of the importance of the cultural sector in a country. As you can see, you have a lot of you have a big share of export, both for France and Italy. And if you go inside the statistic, trying to understand what are these cultural goods that we export, a lot of them are linked to fashion. Since France and Italy are one of the main producers of fashion, and there are a lot of fashion brands in both the country. And the other important contents for France are audio-video products and books, because in France there's a huge production of both of these kind of content, way more than in Italy. And also I think a well-established international way of producing audiovisual product, thanks both to the intervention of the Ministry of Culture that support the audiovisual sector and to private partners that work a lot at the European level, also using the channels of funding like Creative Europe program. We can maybe go through slide 12, please. Just because I see the time is going very fast, so I will focus on some comparable sectors. I cannot find more updated data. So we have the situation in Italy in 2018 and in France in 2017. And you can see the value added in the two countries for some of the culture and creative sectors. For example, we have architecture and design, where, as you can see, Italy has almost the double of value added of France, mainly thanks to design from one side and from the other side, because the architecture subsector is very huge in Italy. As we say before, audiovisual, cinema, radio, and TV production is very important in France. And you have almost 1/3 more of value added in France compared to Italy, while performing arts and heritage are quite the same. Not really the same, because it's higher for France than in Italy, but they are comparable. And in the next slide, you can also see employment. So those figures that we see as a share of the total employment in the sector, that was about the same percentage for Italy and France. Here you can find the employment divided into the subsector in communication, cinema, radio, and TV, video games and software, music publishing, and so on. As you can see, not all the sectors are comparable. For example, for artistic heritage, we cannot find the same statistics in France that we had for Italy. But for other sectors, we just have some a part of the statistics we need. For example, in video games and software, we have the total for Italy, and I just found the video game sector for France. But I am quite sure that the video games industry in France is really bigger than the one in Italy, because there was a big investment 30 years ago about education and also startup in this field that has not been done in Italy right now. And also you can see how bigger is the industry in France when you look at employment in cinema, radio, and TV. That is 6 times bigger than in Italy, and this is really, I think, interesting to go into the different sectors, subsector, culture and creative industry to understand better the situation of Italy and France and to compare them. So if you can go to slide 15, there's also another way to understand the sector to compare Italy and France, and I think this is the how they innovate, how many innovative cultural enterprises you can find. It's not easy to find the data that can compare the two countries because there are not a lot of analysis and of databases that help us in doing that. So I will present some data on Italy and then some way of funding this innovation that could help both the sector in both the countries. As you can see, in Italy, you have a lot of associations working in the cultural and creative sector, and this is not an issue from some point of view. For example, it's very difficult as an association to find capital to sustain an expansion, investment, to innovate, while maybe you have a lot of inputs from the cultural side of being an association, because there's a stronger focus on the cultural product and process than when you are an enterprises that is much more focused on the market. And as you can see, these companies and innovative cultural enterprises in Italy are born mainly in the past 15 years. Who are them? Are the ones that participate in the most important call from bank foundation that sustain innovation in cultural sector in Italy, and the ones participating in the EIC call of European Union, that is the one of the way to fund innovation in cultural sector. So they are, from the point of view of the economic dimension, compared to the total sector, there are really a few organizations. And if you go to the next slide, you will see that they have also a very small economic dimension, since the picture on the left is the distribution of the organization by revenue. And you will see it's very low revenue. The majority of them is 100,000 euros per year. That is very a low revenue for them. And since they participated in calls both at the national and international level, and they asked for financing, you can see on the right that the impact of the contribution requested compared to the expected revenue is really high, especially for the smallest one in terms of revenue. So if you, for Italy, we can sum up saying that there's a important cultural employment, there's the capacity to have an important turnover too, from the point of view of the cultural enterprises, but there's a very large number of them that have difficulty in competing on the European market, and also the most innovative segment is very seems to have some fragility at the economic level. While I didn't have the same data on on the French one, but I think reading a lot of different reports on the innovation on the cultural sector in France, that they are quite more structured, and I would say also they can collect more capital to invest in innovation. And this is one of the most important differences, along with the specialization in the audiovisual sector and the capacity of a greater value added of French companies. Then I think there's the last slide, if I'm not wrong. You can skip this one. Thank you. And how Europe is supporting culture and creative sector. There are a lot of opportunity of funding that could be explored both from for-profit and not-for-profit organizations. So some of them are intended for non-profit organizations. Some other could be also used by profit organizations, and that are a lot of them are focused on innovation and on innovating cultural product processes involving new targets and answering to new needs detected among the people and population. So you have, first of all, Creative Europe, Erasmus+, but also a lot of other programs like Digital Europe program, or the New European Bauhaus, or all the Cohesion Fund and European Regional Development Fund, that have a lot of resources for cultural projects, and also the program to support companies' innovation, like the EIC I mentioned before. So there are, I think, a lot of tools that can help both Italian and French cultural companies to work at the international level. And I finished. I hope to be on time. And I'm there for every question.
So thank you, Paola Borrione. Your presentation was so dense. I think every one of us has at least 5 questions per slide. It is when we understand why your job is so important to us, because we need to know the context. We need to have a map of, especially for young professionals, in order to understand where it's better to put their efforts. And I encourage you to for the end of our presentation together, have some suggestions for our students, sure, in order to orient their professional lives, because some of these slides, of course, question our future and how we can, as a generation of a young professional, how we can change things. Where do you think it's better to invest energies to be present on an international scale and a European scale? Mm-hmm. And this will be my question for afterwards. But it's a good thing that I'm short in my moderation, because your presentation are really interesting. And so I leave the screen to Sergio Chianca. Despite his name, he's Brazilian.
Yes.
And he will present himself, because he has so many different infrastructure in which he's involved as a cultural manager. So, Sergio, thank you for being here with us.
Yes. So, first of all, I'll be a bit... Okay, so let's change seat. Thank you, Maria. Chiara. Well, first of all, I would like to thank you all, both audience, the audience and the on-site audience and the online audience, for being here, and for the organizers who have invited me to contribute today. I was very excited by the figures and the information that was brought from Paola, and I think this is very interesting to be shown and to be understood by people who work in the cultural industry, in the creative industry. I'm here using the word industry as UNESCO and most English-speaking countries do, as a sector, as to talk about the sector, the cultural sector, because you are here, you have so different people listening to this talk, have so many different profiles. I would like to say that I will be focusing a bit on the performing arts field, because this is the one I work with from a very long time, and as a presenter, because I curate and present work from different artists or I work in cooperation with festivals in France, not only in France, some other festivals in other countries. Recently, I've joined the team of Bipod, which is a festival taking place between Beirut and France. And we also, this is a festival focusing on the Mediterranean territory. I also cooperate with a festival based in France, in Paris, called the Jerk Off, which is related to gender and I'll show you some. So this is a festival I cooperate with, which is Bipod, taking place between, I don't know if you can share the screen, which takes place between Lyon and Beirut. I'm also involved in the curation and programming of this. So this is Bipod again, with this festival, which is designed and related to gender and LGBT and identity in a very broad way. I also work with some artists, helping them develop their career. So I could show you this one, Lorena Dojo, who is not from Italy, but who works in Switzerland in I don't know how the word in English is for this, in the Ticino, Tessa. I don't know how to say it in English. I mean, in this Italian part of Switzerland, Italian-speaking Switzerland. So so these are my main activities as a working as a presenter, showing and presenting work in the context of festivals, and I also work on the other side of the stage with companies, with dance companies mainly, helping them develop their career and helping them develop their projects. So I thought it was very interesting to listen to what Paola brought to us, because we can see how our sector functions and how it works in both Italy and in France. And my contribution here today is just to make you aware of how much important, if you're not already, because you probably are already aware of that, of how much networks can be important for developing your project. You may know everything about Italy, how it works, or how the industry works in Italy. You can know as much as you may know about how it works in France, but still you have to find partnership to create and to make things happen in some way. If you want to work in an Italian or from an Italian point of view or from a French point of view, you'll probably be based in one of those countries, or you you may also be based in both countries. You can work with a company that has an activity between the two countries, but you may physically be based somewhere, and you have probably the need to meet other colleagues and to start and to work internationally, not only between France and Italy, but probably between other countries, because this is the way Europe, Creative Europe works. You cannot really mount a project or mount something important funded by Creative Europe if you're not at least 3 or 4 or 5, 7 partners. So this is something you probably have to be aware of. Even if you are based in France or even if you are based in Italy, you still need to cooperate with a third country, probably. So you have to be aware of this dimension, and the slides that Paola has shown to us are very interesting on this regard, because we can see so many discrepancies and so many surprising figures between different countries. And we can see where you can develop things, because there are so little that is done. So you can, I think that from a very professional perspective, it is nice to see where the industry is very well developed. But it's also interesting to see where the industry is not developed yet. And this is probably something to be explored. You will probably find funding or finding opportunities in countries that are not very developed, in which you are going to have a role, and in which you're going to have an expertise, in which you're going to bring some innovation, in which you're going to bring some new things. You will also be able to bring some contribution from those countries, because they are not very developed from an institutional or from a governmental point of view, they have so much to offer to other countries who are very, very developed, between inverted commas. So this is something I wanted to bring to you. You probably have to be strategical and to try and find opportunities where opportunities are, but you also can try and find opportunities where they are not expected to be so easy, but then it can bring you some opportunities to develop partnership, because people are willing you to come and to work with them as well. This is something that can be interesting. If you work between France and Italy and Spain, etc., so many people work in the industry already, so everybody's a bit blasé, as you say in France. They don't need you. They haven't expected or waited for you to arrive. And in some other countries, you also have these people very hungry, very thirsty for culture and for innovation and for cooperation. So this is something I wanted to bring to this conversation as well. So, because we're talking about networking, I have to keep an eye on the watch because I'm a bit talkative sometimes. Okay. So, as I told you, this is a festival between Beirut and France. This is the Parisian. No, this is a Parisian-based festival, related and devoted to identities and LGBT issues. And in all those, this is one of the artists I work with, but there are other people who are based in different countries. She's based between Switzerland and Paris. I also work with a guy who is based in Barcelona and who works from Barcelona, between Barcelona and Lyon. Lorena works between Lugano and Paris. Other people, yesterday I was with Sonali, who is a choreographer who works in Korea, South Korea. So we develop projects between South Korea and Paris. So, how can we probably develop those partnerships? And this is what I wanted to introduce to you, the importance of being connected to other people who do the same job as you. So I don't know if you're going to be if you're going to be working in Italy or if you're going to be working in France, but no matter where you finally eventually find yourselves, you really you can like have a kind of close look to those networks, European networks. I'm showing you the first one because I'm very related to that one as well, IETM. I'm a member of this network for about 10 years, and I'm part of the advisory board for some time now, for 2 or 3 years now. And this network is very interesting for people who want to create projects. You may, because you are so expert on what happens in France, because you're so expert on what happens in Italy, you have this double heart, which may give you some strengths to develop projects between those two countries, plus one, for instance. Or you can even go to those networks to get some information on what's going on in your country. It's an opportunity to network, to meet people, and to share knowledge, and to share points of views, and to share problems and also solutions for common problems you may find at some point. If you have a list, if you go to IETM, IETM is a membership organization. So it means that if you want to take part to the assembly, to the General Assembly, you have to be a member. But you may think, oh my God, but I won't be part of this network. I don't know this network already. Why should I join? So most of the networks I'm going to show to you are not closed to other people. You can always go and see how it works and how it can be useful for you. If you go to IETM, you have those events. I'll have a look. Let's have a close look to IETM. If you go to IETM, you have all those meetings, all those events that take place all over the year. The next meeting is in Belgrade. It's a plenary meeting. This is a place where everybody goes, all members and non-members. It takes place once or twice a year. This plenary meeting is going to take place in Belgrade, and it's an opportunity for you, if you are working in the cultural industry, it's an opportunity for you to go and to meet people from different countries and from the country you work in as well. If you have a list, here you can see a list of those, I just have to find the list. Okay, it's because I changed, okay, sorry. It's because I changed screen. You can go to this screen and see who is in Italy is part of this network. So this is an opportunity for you. If you go to Belgrade, you can also meet some people from all the countries that will be attending the conference, the meeting, but you can also meet people from your own country. And sometimes you don't have the opportunity to meet them in your own country. So this is the opportunity to meet them as well. Going to international networks is not only an opportunity to meet people from different countries. It can be the opportunity to meet them, but it's also an opportunity to meet and develop projects between people from your own country. So this is very important to know as well, because sometimes, really, how many times it happened to me that I met people who are in France, and I really started close cooperation with them because I met them in an international context, because then they were available to talk. Then they were available to do things. Then they were available to talk about projects. When you meet them in France, you don't even know that they could be interested in something that you do. And if they are there, if they are part of this network, and if they are attending a meeting, it means probably that you have something in common. You have something to share. So this can make a kind of selection as well, being part of those networks. So this is it's probably the oldest network in the performing arts, but it's not the only one. It's one of the oldest, and it's very, very active. It doesn't mean that they are old and they are oh my God, they're doing old things. No, they are very, very still very up to date, and they are really very effective for you if you want to meet people. So here you have those lists. You have those people who work in the industry in Italy. You have 4 pages of people who do things in Italy, who develop projects on an European level. I would advise you, if you have some time, to go and see the list and to go and see their websites. What do they do? Okay, this can be an interesting opportunity for you, even to find internships or even to develop your career in different contexts. I could also show to you the list of people in France being part of this network. Let's have a look. You have very different people. You have Arsena, which many of you may know, which is the National Center for the Resources in Theatre. You have CCN, Centre Chorégraphique. You have also independent companies. You have Institut Français, which is part of the network as well. Those, you know, have very different. You have Occitanie Ancienne, which is a regional agency. So you have people from very different profiles who are part of the network, and you will really have the opportunity to talk with them probably for the first time in this kind of network, because they are so accessible when they are traveling and when they are attending a meeting. This is if you work to IETM as well. Let's see the other chapter, the resources. IETM produce and commission research papers, articles and essays. So this is also something that can be useful for you to find information on how you can act as a cultural agent. There is in particular, there is a resource that is very interesting. It's how to finance, how to fund a project without the commission, because sometimes we're like obsessed by the commission, the European Commission, because they fund projects, and that's what we have on our minds. Let's make a creative Europe. Let's try and make a project. You don't really need to create to have European funding to have an European project. These are completely different notions. You can work internationally. You can work between France and Italy without having money from the Commission, the European Commission, European Community. So this is something to have in mind as well. And there is I will send it to you, and I'll put the link in the chat as soon as I have, because I was thinking about this one right now, listening to what Paola said. You have one of the resources. You can find it on the internet. It's free of access. You can just go and find it. How to finance without the EU. So without the EU funding, I mean. So it's interesting to go and see what you can find, what you can, if finding information here in this kind of website. If you're not, if you want to work as a cultural agent, and if you want to meet people, you can network in other ways as well. You can go to fairs like Transmesse, let's say. Transmesse is a fair. It's a kind of place where you can meet people. You have a look at the terms. You have they're talking about an exhibitor, so you have the possibility to have like a booth and to show your and to meet people who work with artists as well. And these are places where you can also meet different people working in the industry, and it can be very useful for you as well to develop and to create partnership. So Transmesse, so you have those official networks who are designed and who have been created to be a network. And there are other places that are not necessarily called networks, but you can still go and network there. You can still use them as networking places to meet people and to create, to think about projects to be made, to be developed and designed in a cooperative way. I think this is very important to stress, because when you are like young producers or young professionals, this is something, oh my God, how will I go about finding partner? I don't know anybody. So who should I go and see for this project or the other one? So it takes you some time of perspective. You have to go and see, and have to make this kind of research and development process, go into this process of researching and meeting and investing some time and some money trying to find those networks and those people. I think this is very important. I think we are almost, we have reached our time. If I have, I think I gave you some kind of a very big picture of what could be interesting for you to develop partnership between France, Italy, and other countries. If you have questions, I can also, it will be a pleasure to contribute and to answer to them. Thank you very much.
So I take my seat again. I think this hour that we spent together with these two presentations is the perfect representation of why we are doing this kind of activities in a university. I think you can size how many things you have to learn in your professional life as a cultural agent, and the complexity of the system and the multiple direction where you can go in building your own career. It's important to know that it's not only matter of content of a cultural project, but it's matter as well of reading the room, trying to understand who can be your partner in your direction, and building strategies for your own career. So it's not only what you want to do, but how long and with whom and where you tend to go. That's why, I mean, in this little hour together, we already understood the characteristics that are of the context of the countries we are living in, and the networks of people that we can collaborate with and trying to change this context. But in any case, knowing the context is absolutely necessary in order to also read the feedbacks you will receive in your career. Sometimes you'll be astonished of a feedback in one sense or in another, and it's because not only because of the content you're giving to the cultural system, but as well for the context and the people you are working with. So thank you to both of you, Paola and Sergio, because the two perspectives are necessary for what we are doing together, IULM and Sorbonne Nouvelle. I think that we really need this time for questions and answers. So please, from the backstage, let us know if there are questions from the people who are following from YouTube. And I don't know if Paola wants to react to the presentation that Sergio already did, or to the question I tried to put in the middle of the two presentations. Paola, to you again.
Oh, thank you. I just lost you for some seconds in between the two presentations, but I get the question. So
the question was just how to translate your perfect presentation.
When you, in which sector, where can young start working? I think that we, because the statistics and sectors are organized, very difficult to organize strict audiovisual sector, heritage sector, and I don't think that sectors are going to be much more and I think one of the best opportunities for young professionals is trying to work at the border in between sectors to find new unities, in between digital between audiovisual and cultural activity. I don't know if you hear me. Do you have some problem with audio?
But it's almost only for us, or
is better now?
we can hear you better. Maybe.
Okay. So
you can.
I think opportunity in between sectors. I can hear you very well now. If
Good.
Okay, so basically, this is I
okay.
think.
So I was just saying that, in my opinion, the most important opportunity are in between sectors.
In between the sectors.
Yes, if I may make a comment, I think really that it's interesting. I think that for some decades, we had this. How could I put this? I'm trying to find a way to say it very clearly. Probably our parents or your parents were in the audience. Perhaps you have this. You listen at some point of it to specialize, to be a specialist, and to be very edgy on this aspect or another aspect. And I think that nowadays, and this is, I don't know if I'm translating well what Paola meant, I think you have to think really without borders in some way. So if you develop a project, you probably, if you meet an artist, he will or she will probably define himself or herself as an artist coming from a specific sector like dance, or it can be theater as well. But they will use digital technology. They will probably use visual arts design as well, or they will also use music in very different, very innovative ways. So I quite agree that these can bring you some opportunities if you like work in a cross-sectorial approach, so that you can really enlarge your network, enlarge your the opportunities. You have to specialize. Of course, you have to specialize, but at some point you have to specialize so much. In my opinion, I'm saying that, but at the same time, people want you to be a kind of specialist. From my point of view, I work mainly with dance. Okay, but I'm still looking and working with people. And if I start like working with theater, it would be like, oh my God, why is he now working with this with theater? It would be like surprising, because people know me a lot about because I work with choreographers and with dancers. But I also have this this aspect. I work as a producer with artists, but I also work with festivals. So in some way, in my case, I'm not saying that everyone has this kind of experience, but everyone has his own or her own experience. In my case, what I realize is that the fact that that having two aspects of having two hearts can be useful sometimes for some people, not for many of them, not for all of them, but it can be interesting as well. It's a kind of cross-sectorial approach, or cross-sector. Yes, as Paola said, it's a way of being between two spaces, between two places, two different points of view. I think it's very interesting to have this kind of approach.
I would stress this because I think that given the world we are living in is such specialized itself, the role of culture and arts is bringing sense to this world. So it's making sense that you say that, because actually I think that in the future our role will be making connection and building relationships, and so this is definitely what we are going through, I think. Paola, sorry, I think you were trying to say something more and we just cut you, but because we have some issues in the connection. Do you want to add things? Maybe turning off the video if it's your connection problem.
Just one thing about what Sergio. Okay.
Yes.
It's better. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. Just one thing about what Sergio said in his presentation. I think one of the most important value he was speaking about is trust. Because telling us to go and know people and start working with them, and one of the most important value that young professionals need to cultivate is trust in other people, and this is easier if you are very competent and open to dialogue to work with other ones. So the key is people trust other organizations, start working with them, like work and finding the partner. But you have like to share ideas if you want to grow and to trust people to grow. That all alone is very difficult to build a big and in cultural field.
Paola, yes, may I react to that? I'm so glad that you mentioned this, because this is what I think, that's why it takes so much time. And sometimes it can be very discouraging for somebody who is starting in the sector, who is starting to work in the cultural field, because it takes so much time to be to earn other people's trust. It takes time because we are working in a very competitive and in a very unstable context in which people can like work, and then the year after they won't work anymore. They would like change career, change sector. They will be working in another completely different field. So it takes time. And when you have to develop projects, sometimes it's frustrating because you really want it to go very quick and fast and very in a very effective and very operational way, very, very quickly. But sometimes it takes time for a project to be between the moment in which you start talking with somebody about the project and when the project is finally delivered. Sometimes it can take 2 or 3 years, sometimes more. So it's kind of, you have to develop this relationship. It's really essential. That's what Paola was saying. You have to be, you have to inspire. You have to have to get those other people's trust, and you also need to be consistent in your work. People have to see that you're not going to stop the year after, that you're like working in the sector for a long time, and that you are really convinced of the interest of your work and why you are doing this. I think I quite agree with what Paola said. Things won't come so easily. I would say probably a bit hard to say to young students, but it takes time as well. So
definitely.
Yeah.
This reminds me about the first lesson we had together, because at the very first time I talked to students, I say that be prepared that you have to have the feeling that you're throwing away 60% of your working day sometimes, because you need to have such outreach work in your creative life that sometimes all the work you done, you cannot fit it in the same project. You cannot fit it in the timeline you were meant to have for that project. But at the same time, all the work you're going to do, if it's focused on the things you are convinced about, you will gain it later for another project or for our connection. So the very first day we discussed about cultural projects, how to build just one, because our class is on organizing one project. I want to stress on that you need to feel open about what you're discovering of the world thanks to your project, and then be prepared that only 20% of your work will fit in that one specific project. But the interesting thing is that you are here to build your career strategy, which is not only of your place in the world, but your mission or your vision about cultural industry and what you can do with it.
Yes, I quite agree with this analysis.
But that's
why I use
you
the
have
word,
to be prepared emotionally, because it's not easy.
It's not. That's why I'm talking. That's why I use the term, the word invest. You have to invest, and not only invest money. You have to invest yourself. You have to put a lot of yourself into your project as well. It takes time. You have to really to invest time and probably some money, because sometimes you have to travel and not necessarily going to be reimbursed for your travels. Perhaps sometimes you have to upfront and to finance yourself your own participations or your own attendance to one or two meetings. But I think it's really important that you can meet people physically, because of the COVID times as well. We got used to having Zoom meetings, but at some point, if you are talking about a project and if you want to find a partner, you have to go and show him or to show her your interest. And sometimes it means that you go towards them. You have to go and make this first step for projects to happen as well. If you keep waiting for people to come to you, it will really probably take much more time, and
Absolutely.
you probably fail as well, because you need to make this first step to show your interest, to show you are really involved and very and willing to invest this time and the time you may need for implementing your idea. And no matter if you do it independently or if you do it in the frame of a mission of a contract or something, you always have to show this interest anyway.
Feel free to ask questions here, there, or
yes,
on YouTube.
If you have questions on,
I have just for a technical point. If there are already questions, maybe I cannot see them because I'm looking to Sergio's StreamYard and not mine. So in case I don't see questions, please write them here.
Are there any questions related to the networks or related to partnership or?
I mean, I think that in our class that we are dealing only with one project at a time. We are doing the most difficult exercise because when you feel here we are experiencing this with the budget. You put sponsorship you are supposed to have, or partnership you are supposed to have, and contribution that you are supposed to have. But every line in the budget means that you have to make an effort, that you have to have partners, that you know why you are asking for that money. And so I think that what we heard today from Sergio and from Paola is really precious from this point of view, because we are trying to understand how to build up one single project. But all that we discussed today is bringing us to make to change our mind in several projects that have been made. That's all the trust that you have to gain in doing your job year after year. And so these lines that we are now filling just for exercise will be more and more important in the future and meaningful in the future, because you will earn experience on how to deal with them. You have a question?
Yeah, just a little one. It's about the personal experience, because you think about the fact that at the beginning we have to invest a lot of time, a lot of ourselves, And so, it's like a curiosity for me, what you research with a project, there is always the same things that can be repeated, that you research, and like feeling, experience, or each project is different, and so they can change. However, the value that you have at the end of the project, because I like to see also the other parts to motivate ourselves to engage in this project.
Okay.
For the audience that maybe didn't hear the question Irene asked, it's about the emotional up and downs when preparing a cultural project, and what to expect when you're starting your career.
I think I understand.
And what to...
Especially at the end of your course, a festival or collaboration with an artist, we felt already that you have to invest a lot of time, and that's at the end what you have.
So you invest a lot at the beginning. What do you get back at the end?
Okay, yes, because I understood your point. Very interesting. Because we keep telling everybody, telling you, yes, you have to invest time, you have to work very hard, you have to make efforts, etc., etc. So at some point you ask yourself, well, okay, but what's it going to bring to me? You use the word pleasure at some point. So you have this satisfaction. I mean, this personal satisfaction of doing a job, which is when you invest time, when you invest money, you expect some money to come back because you invested money. When you invest your time, then it's not necessarily money you're waiting for, but probably some money, of course.
At least to survive.
At least because time is money, isn't it? So, but when you invest more time, then you can expect to be paid for it. Then you probably expect something else. And I think that this something else is, you use the word, is a satisfaction of having useful to the project. So, that's kind of added value you feel that you could bring to the project. And this empowers you. I think empowerment is something that we really need. And some people have like good positions, good jobs, and they just burn out or they just resign because they don't find the pleasure or the satisfaction they're expecting from their work. So it's not related. I think it's not only related to money, because some people have loads of money, but they have no opportunity to grow as a person in your position. It's really frustrating as well. Money doesn't pay everything. Money doesn't pay. I'm saying cliches, I know, but I'm just saying that you're right. You have to find the compensation for this time. But I think this is up to you to find as well. And you have to find the limits. You have to invest. I'm saying that you have to invest time, you have to invest money, but up to a limit. And this limit is your limit. I'm not saying to you that do whatever you have to do or do as much as you can, or I'm not saying that you have to like kill yourself doing the work, but I'm just saying that you probably have to invest in time. It takes, I mean, you're not going to mount a project only because you went to one meeting. That's basically what I wanted to say. Go to a meeting, an IETM meeting probably. You will meet loads of people. It doesn't mean that you're going to make a project the year or the months before or after. I mean, it can take some more time because you probably have to see or to talk with the people again and to meet them again in a different or in another context. So you have to be patient. That's what I meant. So you have to probably have other activities as well because you need to survive. You need money. So you have to have another project going on at the same time. So that's what I say sometimes to my colleagues and even to the artists. Okay, so we are expecting this project to be implemented, but let's work on something else, in parallel, because we cannot, as Paola said, we cannot be too. We have to be between, to work the potentials in the betweens. And when she talked about two different fields, but I think that there is this time between two projects as well. This time between two projects, you have to fill them, and you have to make them fruitful in some way. You cannot like only invest all your energy in one project. You still have to have like a kind of view a bit further, so you can like predict and start like working or thinking about what the development will be for the next step for the artist, but also for me as an individual. You have to think about the artist and about the project, but also about you as an individual. What am I gaining from it? How will I use this experience to probably bounce and do something else with other people? You know, so this is what I'm always invested in my case, because you're asking some kind of testimony. In my case, I invest much time with the artists, with the projects, but I'm also always having a look about myself as a professional, because it's like in the airplane when you say, before you take care of the others, please put your mask. Have you heard of this one? And it's the same, I think, for ourselves as producers, as artists. You have to think about the project. You have to think about the common thing. But you also have to take care of yourself before. It's not because you're egoistic. It's only because if you're not strong enough, and if you're not thinking about yourself as a professional, as an individual, you'll not be able to help anybody or to give your support to anybody. So this is something it's a kind of balance to find between investment and self-protection, I would say. I don't know if I'm making it very clear, but this is
your very personal point of sustainability in these cycles and up and downs, and knowing that you will, in your professional life, you will be dealing with much more than one project at a time. So this also is up to you to find your balance in these different phases and different projects.
And even if you're not, because I have this kind of very independent profile, because I've always worked, but I've mostly worked independently in some way. I have my own agency. I didn't mention it, but I have my agency that helps me. I don't know if we're sharing the screen. You're not sharing the screen anymore. It doesn't matter. I have my own agency, but I also work with other people. And, you know, it's kind of having, again, the mask not very far away. If I need the mask, I can at some point take it and wear it. Do you know what I mean? And then I'll be able to do my job and to be present with other people. But I always have my mask very close to me.
We are
just in case.
Speaking of oxygen mask, and not the COVID mask.
Yes. It's like I like very much that metaphor of the airplanes. Before you take, you know, because you have a child, because you probably be really react and try to help the children close to you. But no, you have to take care of you before, and then the children will be able to do it more efficiently if you are yourself strong and healthy.
So we are getting emotional, but it's important too. But I see Paola smiling, so I think that she has the right of the final.
Yes, I'm speaking too much. So
no, but I mean, get back to economics. Help us with the last message to the audience.
No. I was thinking that I do not find my balance, and I'm like too. So, to the question of finding very difficult. That is
it turned out to be a self-help group
opportunity for other people.
Oh, Paola, maybe turn off the video. We can hear you better without the video.
Yes.
Even if we want to see it, you too, but.
I think she said that she had not totally found her balance.
What I say.
Now we hear you better.
So, thank you so much for an opportunity to discuss. Okay. Yes.
Thanks.
I told you that I don't find, but I know I'm a workaholic, so no problem for me. I think that
you're self-aware.
one of the key is find space for her.
Find space for other.
Sorry, Paola, we experienced really some issues with the connection. I don't know if it's only from Paris or for YouTube users too. But if there are no questions, our time is finished.
No problem.
I think we will find to have another opportunity to discuss this further, because it was really interesting. So, thanks, Paola, very much for all the highlights you shared with us with your presentation. Thanks to Sergio too, because I think the two perspectives were really necessary for the topic of today. So, and thank you for experience of the digital talks. So our collaboration with Sorbonne Nouvelle and IULM will not stop today. So thanks for every one of us to having participated to this debate. And we hope we will have other occasion. And I think that we can stop the live streaming and spend a few minutes together physically. And thanks again also to the backstage help we got in this webinar.
Thank you.
È finito.